And, you know, we were talking about that. I think one of the things that I know that Denmark, you know, has done in years is decriminalize, Ray alluded that, decriminalize all the drugs. And nobody really talks about the decrease in crime rate and all the other stuff, meaning that there are just people that are going to abuse drugs. They're in every society. And our prisons are full of them, and crime is created as a result of it. People are robbed, but if that's what you want out of life, that's all that life offers you is to get stoned and not want to be part of society. You know, the government needs to recognize that truly does exist, and decriminalize it to some extent, and get people checked in to get their medications or whatever they need. And but most people want to be a part of society, and I think in a lot of ways we create the hopelessness and the poverty and the sense of I don't want to say I guess the sense of urgency or in that situation by making it hard for people to get along. But anyway, so just make sure that you as a patient and as a participant in your life and in medicine, when you find it hard to get your prescriptions, don't believe for a minute that the pharmacy can't get it. There's no manufacturing shortage. There's nothing other than the pharmacies just playing hardball with you. Okay, Ray, we have Ray back on the line. Ray?
Yes, Doc. I'll tell you, I really don't want to change the subject because you're on such a roll, but a couple of things I do want to add, and that is I believe it's the Grove is going to be the only dispensary out here, and the rest are like grow houses and things. And the reason it hasn't opened yet is because there's no product. Because the way this whole thing was set up, they weren't able to do anything until the licenses came out at the same time, and it took like 3 months or 4 months or whatever it takes to grow this stuff. Mm-hmm. That's why it's not available. What they force people to do, have a medical use card, is to go on the street and find some other means to do it. This was passed in 2000 as far as medical use, and it's outrageous that this state has been so lackadaisical in its responsibility to people that they would just let people supposedly commit crimes in order to get a prescription for something that is legal after they get their medical use card. Absolutely. And that is completely absurd.
It is.
And another thing I want to touch on. I've sat with people going through withdrawals because they couldn't get their oxys, and it's horrible. Mm-hmm. The withdrawals are horrible. Mm-hmm. These pharmacies are depriving them of that. This is not acceptable. And more I'm thinking about, I know about Suboxone. It helps people out, and if they get onto Suboxone, they can get off of the oxys. But maybe another substitute, as you mentioned, could be this marijuana. Mm-hmm. And it's, in my opinion, from what I hear and talk to people, it's not like dangerous. I've heard in court lawyers say it's a horrible, horrible drug. Where are they coming from on this? They're just making it up to appease the judge who doesn't like marijuana. Mm-hmm. So these are some of the things that are happening. And what I wanted to ask on COPD, I hear a lot about it, but I don't even know what it is. I think it's something to do with the lungs. Mm-hmm. So if you can explain that, and also childhood diseases, measles, mumps, and chickenpox, are they only limited to when you're a child? Because I had measles when I was a kid. Can I catch the other ones now that I'm 71 years old, or is it after you're a certain age you just don't get it anymore?
Right. Okay. Good questions. And yeah, the legal system is a totally system run amok. And you know, like I said, I think if they would just follow, I'm not so sure that I totally like the recreational use of it, but listen, for that particular part, if you're doing anything that causes you bodily harm or somebody else, and you aren't able to control it. I mean, look at alcohol. I mean, it's served over, you know, you pay money for it, and more people die each year of drunk driving, and other people are maimed for life because of that, but yet nobody does anything because of the lobbies and the amount of money involved with alcohol. And marijuana is certainly an alternative to those particular things too, as far as an alternative to drinking, but it certainly has its medicinal purposes and used correctly can alleviate things. So anyway, we could talk about that all night, and I could ramble forever on that. But I am a proponent of using marijuana for that. You touched on Suboxone. The reason it is a combination of naloxone with another pain reliever. So it actually has an agonist-antagonist role, and you do have to be licensed to be able to prescribe that if you want to be able to get off of your oxycodone. And any physician...
methadone, people think this is something evil because it gets you off of the heroin or whatever. You mentioned the positive effects of methadone, and I was astounded when you said it. I didn't know. It was the same mentality that, well, oh, you got to be on heroin to get methadone. And when you bring this stuff out, it's very positive, and I'm glad people are watching this show because they're learning a lot. And I want to thank you for being on the air, and especially when you actually show up on Mondays.
Okay, well, I appreciate that too. I do my best to get here. It's just some days are horrible. You know, in Pahrump, you never know what you're going to get on Monday. The internet's out, and you know, there's always some catastrophe that happens Monday. But you do the best you can. I wish the show was on another night, but it is what it is, and this is the night that I try. And I've even tried to adjust my schedule to get here on time, but doing that, there's always, you can never control what the day is going to give you. And thank God there's a rerun. And I think sometimes if you watch things more than once, you get a second level of understanding anyway.
Well, it's a good show. Thank you, Doctor.
Well, no, thank you, Ray. I appreciate your calls. So yeah, and like I said, methadone is very useful as a pain reliever and a very useful for heroin withdrawals. But for a pain reliever, it really is much better than I think a lot of the other opioids. It does have its issues, but that being said, it's the Anthony Perkins routine with the Bates Motel. You hear methadone and you think about heroin, but methadone is a very, very, very good pain reliever and is very cheap. And it's very easy to get. I'm sure the pharmacies will find some reason to limit that too. But that as it is a very good alternative. COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and emphysema, they are used in the same term, but they're a little bit in the way of different. They both have the same basic problem. And what that is you have an obstruction to the outflow of air in your lung. And that's basically, it says chronic obstructive pulmonary disease is what the term. Emphysema is pretty much a term that kind of incorporates that, but there is one genetic defect that basically causes emphysema. I'm going to interrupt for just a second. We have Kaylee on the phone. Kaylee?
Hi, yes. I had a quick question about what your thoughts on are for getting help with fibromyalgia because it's like a chronic pain condition for people that are like younger like me. I'm like in my 30s, and I'm on Vicodin, and I tried to see about a couple of different options, like for getting on a long-acting pain medication, so I'm not having to take my short-acting medication so often. And then what your thoughts are on ever being able to move over to having marijuana for fibromyalgia.
Okay. Those are good topics. Nobody's ever done a study on marijuana for fibromyalgia, but it is a chronic pain condition. But more than it's a chronic pain condition, it's an altered pain curve. And I'm going to put it simply to you. I mean, opioids, and meaning hydrocodone and all the other narcotic medications, are really the wrong thing to take in fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is a condition where you're more tolerant. Your tolerance to pain is shifted. And I don't have a diagram, I don't have a board to show you, but imagine that you can follow my finger, and this is an S curve that kind of goes up like this, and I'll try and keep it on the screen. It kind of goes up like this. So what we have on this axis is basically going to be our pain level will be at either 1 or a 10, and over here on this, on the basically horizontal axis, we're going to be using the stimulus. So let's say it's temperature. As we increase the temperature, it's very calm. All of a sudden we reach a very high temperature, and it's like, ooh, that's too hot, get that off of me, and you go to a 10, and that's basically what a pain curve is. It's an S curve. All of a sudden, it's just like you're like this. Well, this would be a person that doesn't have fibromyalgia, and we just take that same curve and we move it a little bit over here. So what happens is the patient with fibromyalgia is getting a level 5 pain when someone is getting a level 1 pain. And when I have a level 3 on a non-fibromyalgia patient, you're at a level 8. The way the opioids work, and they cause what's, you have to understand, opioids or narcotics, they have a hyperalgesia. They create pain as much as they relieve pain, meaning when you reach a certain level of opioid use, your opioid receptors are screaming if they don't get that pain. So you actually take someone with an altered pain curve, and now you actually make that pain worse when they're coming down off of the Vicodin or the opioid or the short-term pain medication. So, and really what opioids do is they work in what they call the reticular activating system of your brain, and then they make you know that the pain's there, but you just don't care about it. So I'm going to hold that thought. I know you care about this discussion, so come back in about a few minutes after the break, and we'll finish that up. And thank you for calling, Kaylee. We'll hang on, and we'll get an answer for you.